These are some of the different types of assessments that you will need to consider when you develop your performance tests. Process measures include, for example, how the steps in a particular task would be performed. Product measures would include how a particular end product looks relative to size, shape, color, and so forth, that it meets standards. Safety measures are important for a particular part of a task or a task that involves safety. Worker behavior measures would be important to evaluate in a task where you have to consider how a worker performs a particular task in terms of maybe being accurate, for example, or being pleasant if they're working in a customer service capacity. Time is another factor that is used in performance tests to make sure that work is done within a particular time frame, or it could be a whole series of or a combination of these various measures. Now, the process measures are used when the specific steps are important. A particular task where you have to perform steps precisely in a sequence where they can be observed, and that probably the only way to assess performance is while it's actually being done. So process measures are one of the most common that we see used in performance tests. Product measures are used, as we mentioned, when a tangible product results from the performance, and they can be done in any where specific steps aren't required to be performed in order. And you can find the evidence of assessment in the end product, such as its shape is correct, or its color is correct, or its size is correct. So that's where product measures would be used. Safety measures are particularly important if safety precautions have to be followed, or if there are specific procedures that are specified in regulations that must be followed. Anytime harm could occur to personnel, either those performing the task or those that might be in the vicinity of where the task is being performed, or where damage to equipment or other property may occur. So safety is not always used in a performance test, but again, if the task does involve safety-related measures, then they should be. Worker behavior measures are used if the personal work habits are important to job success. So, for example, if a person has to be polite when dealing with customers, then you want to be able to assess their degree of politeness. Where customer service is involved, besides being polite, maybe a person has to be accurate, perhaps in what they're saying if they're selling a particular product, or if something is being done where accuracy is important. And then, as we mentioned, a combination of measures, and this is usually what most performance tests end up being, is a combination of measures where in some cases the steps to the task are important. Perhaps there might be some tangible product evidence. Safety might be important. Work habits or time, any of those or all of those could be used in a single performance test. So when we construct our checklists or our competency-based education checklists or performance tests, we want to make sure that we're only developing one checklist per competency, and a competency is generally referred to as a particular single task. We want to keep that list reasonably short, somewhere in the order of between 6 and 12 items. The criteria that we come up with should be critical to the performance of the task, and we should only assess one factor for every item. So we don't want to get into a situation where we're assessing how well something was performed in a step, as well as how long, where we might be, those should be assessed in separate items. and they need to be concise and clear. So we can assess both the individual tasks as well as how all of the tasks as a whole are performed to assess either the complete task performance or the steps within that given task. The rating scale that we generally use on most performance tests is a 4-3-2-1 scale. Each of those numbers correlates to a level of performance that is determined by the assessor based on his or her observation of the person performing the actual task, or the person being tested. So this is a scale that would be used in lieu of an ABCD grading scale in the traditional sense. And here we're looking at a scale that would basically be completed after all steps in the task have been performed. All right, so we'll stop at this point and move on to the next activity in this module.